Hey everyone, welcome to my new tutorial. Today we're gonna make this super simple and stylized X-Wing with a little bit of animation. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like, it will really help my channel to grow. And if you're new to the channel and you'd like to see content like this in the future, please hit that subscribe and additionally bell button if you want to get notified when I release something new. And if you're new to the world of 3D and Blender, and you want to become a 3D illustrator, go and check out my courses that are carefully designed to teach you beginner and intermediate skills in quickest and most effective way. For example, with the new Ultimate 3D bundle, you can go from simple cubic designs all the way to full character illustration in a matter of weeks. So if you're interested, please go check out the link in the description. Let's now jump right into empty Blender file, and from the default objects I want to leave the camera in place and delete everything else. Press X and delete, and now let's press Shift A and we'll start with a plane. Tab into the edit mode, press S to scale it down and S then Y to scale it on the Y axis a little bit, and now we'll press E to extrude it up just like this. Now press Ctrl R to make a loop cut in the middle, right click to release in place and press S then X to scale it just like this. Now we'll press 3 to switch to the face select. Select these two faces by holding Shift and extrude them just like that, and press S to scale them down. Let's look from the side by pressing 3 on a numpad, press G then Z and move this down just like that. Okay, and now press E to extrude and S to scale again. So this will be the basic shape of the X-Wing, and now let's finish the front. So let's press E to extrude and scale up, and E again and scale it down, and we can additionally press G then Y to move it a little bit further to the front. Now let's switch to the edge select by pressing 2, select these two edges by holding Shift and press G twice to slide them just like that. Here I'm gonna make a cut so we can create a cabin there, so press K for knife tool, click here, press A to lock the angle, and additionally press C to cut through and just snap it on the edge here, and now confirm with the enter, so the cut should be on the other side as well. Now go for face select by pressing 3, select these faces and press I to inset and I again to inset individually and confirm, and now we'll press Alt E and extrude faces along normals and extrude it inside just like that. Okay, so far so good, and we can select these faces in the back, press G then Y and move them slightly further back. Now select the top, press I to inset, and now 2 for edge select, and let's press G twice to slide this edge a little bit further back. We need to make a place for the droid, and now let's go for a face select by pressing 3, select this face and extrude inside, and here we can create some kind of greeble. So let's go for a top view by pressing 7, and I will hold Z and switch to the wireframe, and now let's press Shift D to duplicate that face, scale it down, press G to move it around and place it like this, and we can extrude it of course. And now if you press L hovering over this object, you will select the isolated object and press Shift D and duplicate it again, and now we can create one more copy here. Let's go for vertex select by pressing 1, and we can select groups of vertices like this and just move them around. So press G then X to move them here and G then Y to scale it up just like that. And again we can hover over the vertex, press L, press Shift D and duplicate it like that. Okay, let's go back to the solid view, and additionally we can go for face select and just move them up and down so we have some variation there. Nothing too crazy. And now let's select this face right here, hold Shift S and switch cursor to select it. Now tab out and let's press Shift A and we'll add a round cube. If you don't see this option here, go to the edit, preferences and then add-ons and search for extra objects add-on activated, and you should see all these additional options here. Now let's modify this cube so it's a quad sphere, and let's reduce the number of subdivisions to 4, even 3 maybe for this low poly design. Now tab in and scale it down like this. So this should be our little droid, and now we can make this part of the fuselage. So hold Shift, select this one here and press Ctrl J so they're joined in one mesh. And now I want to do a little adjustment here, so let's go to the front view, tap into the edit mode, press A to select all and press G then Z and move it all down like this. So the origin point is here in the middle, and you will see why just in a second. Now tab out into the object mode, press G, then Z, and move it up so you can see we are moving it with the origin point. And now tab back in, and we can go for edge select by pressing 2, select this edge and hold Shift S and cursor selected again. Now tab out and let's press Shift A and let's add a plane. Now we can tab in and press G then X and move this plane a little bit here, just like that. And now let's select these individual edges and slide it back. And now one for the vertex select this vertex and slide it towards the front, just like that. And now maybe we can push this a little bit back and this towards the side, so we have a little bit larger wings, just like that. Now press A to select all and press E to extrude. Tab out, and with the cursor still there, we can press Shift A and let's add a cylinder. Now modify its vertices to something like 8. This will be very low poly, and now tab in, press R, then X and 90. Enter to confirm and scale it down. Let's look from the front, and in the object mode we can move this engine just like this. And now tab back in, press S, then Y, and scale it up just like that. Maybe we can make this tiny bit smaller. Okay, tab out and push it back just like that. Maybe even more like this. Now tab back in, and we can select this face right here. Press 1 for front view, and now 9 to rotate to back. That was on the numpad. And now press Shift D to duplicate this and scale it down, and we'll just move it into the corner here and extrude the engine exhaust. Now we can select the front face, press I to inset and E to extrude inside, just like that. And that should be our engine. So now we can tab out, let's select the wing, and now tab into the edit mode, select this face right here and hold Shift S and cursor to select it. Now tab out and let's press Shift A and let's add another cylinder, just like that. Now press tab into the edit mode, press S and scale it down just like that. Press R, then X and 90 degrees to rotate, and S, then Y to scale it on the Y-axis. Left click to confirm, and now we can select this front face, press I to inset and E to extrude a cannon like this. And maybe we can press G then Y to move it a little bit forward, just like that. And now hold Shift S, switch cursor to select it. Now tab out, let's press Shift A and we'll add a circle. Now let's modify the number of vertices to 12, just like that. Tab in, make this smaller, and we'll go for a vertex select by pressing 1 and select these vertices by holding Control. So let's select the first one, hold Control and click here, press X and delete vertices. Now press A to select all and E then Z to extrude it on a Z axis, just like that. Now select all by pressing A and press G then Z to move it back down, and Alt E and extrude face along normals, just like that. Okay, if it's too large, you can press A to select all and scale it down, just like this, and press G then Y to move it back. Okay, and this should be basically all the geometry we need for the wings. And now I want to connect them into a single object, so let's select these parts individually by holding Shift with the wing as last, and now press Ctrl J to join it. Now if you press R then Y, you can rotate it like this, but you can see the engine goes inside, so we'll need to modify the position of the origin point. So let's look from the front. Now tab in, press A to select all, and we'll press G then X to move it aside like this. Now tab out and press G then X and move it back, and you can see the origin point moving. And basically we are changing the point around which the wing will rotate. So you can see this is a little bit better. And of course we can go all the way, so press G then X, move it aside a little bit more. Now tab out and move the origin point almost to the middle of the ship. So now if you rotate this, it should behave a little bit better. Of course, if you want to avoid gaps here, you can toggle the X-ray here, select these vertices, press G then X and move them inside like that. Okay, so now we have one wing ready, and now we'll just go to the modifiers tab and let's add the mirror modifier. You can see it on the other side, and now let's turn on Z as well, And as a mirror object, we'll choose the ship. So let's click the eyedropper tool and choose the fuselage. And that's why I wanted the origin point to be in the middle here, because now these are nicely mirrored here. And for some final adjustments, we can finish here in the back. So tab in, select these two faces, press G then Y, move them slightly back, and now E to extrude and S to scale. Then I again once more, and E to extrude back inside. So here there's our little stylized X-wing. And last final touch, you probably don't want this to be so connected, so tab in, press A to select all, and press G then Z and move it slightly up. Just like that. And now this will just work much better. And now you can just press R then Y to expand the wings, just like that. And that's it for the modeling. Now we'll just create some materials, some lighting, and give this a little bit of the animation. So let's press G then Z and move all of this a little bit up. Now reset the cursor, so hold Shift S, cursor to world origin, and now let's press Shift A and let's add a plane, scale it up, and let's look from the camera. The camera is too low basically, so let's press G then Z twice to slide it back. And now we can hold period to switch to the 3D cursor, press R then X twice to tilt the camera, just like this. Now let's modify the resolution to something like 1600 to 1200, and of course we can now move the X-wing around a little bit. Okay, now let's hold Z and switch to the material preview, and let's go for ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space reflections in the EV settings. And let's go here and activate scene lights and scene world. So this is completely dark. So first thing we need to do is to add some light. So let's press Shift A and let's add light, area light, press G then Z and move it up. Now in the settings I will give this some strong value like 1500 and move it further up and maybe make it a little bit larger. And now with the 3D cursor still as our origin point, we can press R, X and 45 degrees to move this here, and R, Z 45 again to have some nice backlight, and press G then Z twice to move it back and forth. So we have some nice result. And now let's press Shift D, R, Z and rotate this towards the side. We can bring this closer and give this some smaller value, something like 750 or even 500. Press R then X twice to bring it down, so we have some light from the side as well. And let's select our background and let's add a material. Now I want this to be almost black, really dark color. And for the X-wing, let's create the white material or almost white, something like this. And now let's create a new material slot, and I will add a black material for the window. So tab in, select the window faces by holding Shift, and now let's click the new material and assign. And now we'll add some red material as well, but here we'll need to add some more geometry. So let's press 3 to side view, and we can enable wireframe view, and let's hit K for a knife tool, snap it here, press A for angle snap, and just to cut like this and confirm with enter. Now we can go back to the material preview, select these faces and paint them red. So create a new material slot, new material, find some nice red color and click assign. So we have that side stripe, and on the front we'll need some darker gray material. So let's select these faces, and I'll hold Ctrl plus to expand the selection, create a new material again, and let's add some darker gray and click assign. And now let's paint the wings. So let's select them, tab in, and first of all let's select the default material and let's create a new slot, and I want to add that dark gray material. Let's select this face, press Ctrl plus on a numpad, and let's click assign. And here we can just hover over these parts and paint them gray as well. And to add some red accents here, first of all let me paint this gray as well. And to paint some accents here we'll need to cut this a little bit, so we can additionally press L hovering over these parts as well, press H to hide them, and now it'll be easy to cut this. So press Ctrl R, create a cut there, and while sliding it we can press E to make it even with the front edge there, and just do a cut here like that. And now one more there, so Ctrl R, and let's do one more here, so Ctrl R, and again we'll press E to make this even, and few more cuts there. So right click to release, and one more here, and Ctrl B to bevel, just like that. It looks a little bit messy, but now if we select these parts here, we can add the new slot, add our red material, and click assign. Don't forget to go back to the edit mode and press Alt H to unhide the rest of the mesh. And now let's finish with the lighting. So I will go here, switch to the cycles. I will choose GPU, add some denoisers, and reduce the tiling here, maybe samples as well, and 128 samples should be enough for the animation. So now press Ctrl B to limit, and we can preview this in cycles. So far so good, but it's a little bit dull, a little bit flat. So let's introduce some color in the world color here. So let's go something violet, just like this. Okay, and now here we can go a little bit blue for that area light. And here from the side you can leave it either white or try to find some blue tone, but I think I like the white here. And I'll press Shift A and add yet another light, this time point light. And I want to press 7 on the numpad and position it behind the ship here, and press G then Z and move it a little bit up so it's hidden behind the ship when we look from the camera. Now let's add some really strong value, something like 1500, and let's give this some nice blue cold color, and let's move it around to find some position we really like. And we'll create this nice backlight, and maybe let's increase the roughness on the background there. And of course we can press Shift A and let's add a cube, make it really large, just like this. And we can add a new material there, remove the principal from the surface shader, and now let's add a volume shader in the volume part of the material, and let's reduce the density to something like 0.15. That's too much. 0.0, let's say 3, and that will create this nice fog and these nice god rays when you move the point light behind there. So you can see really nice lighting effects that can be achieved this way. And for the fog, let's select the cube. We can color the fog itself as well, so let's do that. And in the render settings, color management, let's choose some higher contrast settings and play with the exposure, just like that. And now we'll move camera slightly up and to the side. Okay, so this should be the final scene, and we can now animate this. First of all, let me enable filters here and disable cube for selection so it doesn't get in the way when we need to select something from the scene. Now go for the material preview, and you can see this is our final lighting setup in Eevee as well. Really nice preview. Let's go for the animation. Now we'll see nothing here because in the solid view that cube is visible. So what you can do is to just hide it here, and let's switch this to graph editor, and we'll do really simple animation here. So let's press I to insert location keyframe on the frame 1, and I'll reduce the number of frames to something like 180, and go to the output settings and switch to 30 FPS. Now with these selected, I don't want the Y location to be modified, so I'll press X to delete that track. And now let's select the Z. I will press N to bring the side panel here, go to the modifiers and add some noise. And for the scale, let's hit something like 20 or even 30. That should be enough. And strength 0.1. And now if you play this, you can see the ship hovering very slightly. If you want this effect to be stronger, you can like go for 0.2 or something like that. And now let's introduce the similar movement to the x-axis. So let's add some noise, and let's hit 30 for the scale as well. And strength should be really subtle, something like 0.2 as well. Now if you want this to loop nicely, you need to restrict frame range. So let's hit 1 and 180 for frames, and blend in 20 and 20 frames in and out. And let's do the same for the Z animation as well. And now this should loop pretty nicely. Now let's introduce some animation of these wings. So on the frame 40, we can press I and insert the rotation keyframe. Now let's shift to frame, let's say 60, and press R, then Y. And if it behaves this way, that means you have still the cursor as the origin point, so you need to switch this here to medium point, and now press R, then Y, and just rotate like this, and press I and insert rotation here. Now let's expand this here. We won't need any of the X or Z rotations, so let's select and press X, and now we can focus only on this curve right here. Let's select these two frames, and we can just press Shift D and then X to slide them on the X-axis. And now let's select this on the top, press G, then X, and slide it here, and you have opening and closing animation like this. Let's play it. Let's look from the camera and switch to Eevee, and here we'll need to enable scene lights and scene world. So that's our final animation, where the ship is like only hovering and only expanding and retracting these wings like that. If you want something more complex, you can look for my other tutorials. I did some spaceship fly through or some Star Wars inspired turret, so you can combine this animation to create something on your own. And don't forget to share your results with me if you do. So that's it for today's tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed this one, and again, if you did, please leave that like, and if you're new to the channel and you want to see more, please hit that subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.